Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing fine. I'm also okay this evening. I want us to review the president's tour of Mount Kenya, see whether it was a success or what you would call a flop, politically speaking. This is going to be a short video. It's a live video. So I'm ready to interact, hear what your opinions are. But if you followed this channel, I did a video where I shared the three main reasons why the president had to visit Mount Kenya. There are those who asked, why would you give reasons when the president is visiting Mount Kenya? Why is it important to give reasons when the president is visiting Mount Kenya? Why not give reasons when he's visiting other regions? The main reason as to why I did that video was because people were asking, now that the region, from the look of things, looks like they have already abandoned the president, why would the president waste time and visit this region, considering that such a visit might be met with chaos or a lot of resentment? And I was persuaded that we needed to share why that visit or the tour of the president of the region was important. And I said three things. That is what is going to form the basis of this review. I said that the president was going to Mount Kenya to achieve three goals. One, Mount Kenya people, just like any other Kenyan or other region, deserve to be visited, so to say. Because if the president was like to visit every other region and not visit Mount Kenya, considering they're the people who gave him the most vote, that would be a very unfortunate scenario. Also, it will defeat the plan of the president to bring the country together and make every Kenyan feel part of government, the broad-based government, so to say. But then that is the first reason. He was visiting them because they are just like other Kenyan regions that deserve a presidential tour. But secondly, I said the president was going to Mount Kenya, importantly, to do away with a certain propaganda. You see, in Mount Kenya, the likes of Rigathi were running a narrative. And the narrative was that the president has abandoned the region, that the president does not like the Kikuyu community, a community that voted for him overwhelmingly. And you see, with that, ladies and gentlemen, if such a propaganda or such a narrative was allowed to take root, it would have really costed the president in 2027. Because people tend to believe what they hear every now and then. I once told you that there are certain lies that if you just ignore them, they have a life of their own. And once they grow into something else, it will be too late to correct them. In fact, if you try to correct them, that correction is seen as a cover up. And so that is why I was saying, that at the end of the day, the president had to go to Mount Kenya to ensure that such narratives are debunked, or such myths are debunked. And he did that. In my opinion, it was a necessary thing to do. The third reason why the president visited Mount Kenya was to talk to his support base, whereas that there's seemingly a majority of people of Mount Kenya who have made their decision that they will not support the president. It doesn't mean that the entire Murima has rejected the president. And this is something that people need to note. Mount Kenya, in my opinion, is not going to vote as a bloc in 2027. They did not vote as a bloc in 2022, and 2027 it might be worse. The gap in terms of percentage might be even bigger, because in 2022 it is around 13% that voted elsewhere, and the rest voted for Ruto. I am seeing a case where in 2027 there might be even a 30 or 40% voting elsewhere. Hopefully, if something happens, if something was to happen, Ruto might get the majority of votes. But I'm persuaded that as things stand, Mount Kenya is not so much with President Ruto. So I wanted to share with you that the three goals, in my opinion, the president met them so well. Of course, he visited the region. The feeling that they have been abandoned was demystified or was debunked. The narrative that they had been abandoned was debunked. But most importantly, the people of the region, ladies and gentlemen, could now see that the president that they elected still not only cares for the region, because even in terms of appointment, the region still leads any other region. There are so many CSS in Ruto's government than from any other region. People who are from Mt.Kenya are the majority, even in the current Ruto's government. So he went there to prove to them that he understands what their contribution towards his presidency was, and he appreciates it. Two, he made sure that the claim that all the projects had been abandoned was also debunked, because the president was not just in the region to launch, he was there to commission. And you see, when you commission programs, that means they have been completed. And so he was commissioning programs that had been completed. Some of them were started in 2023 and they were now done, like some markets. People would admit this has been done by William Ruto, and so he went there to commission them. This also proved to the people that, contrary to what they were being told, the president is just doing development in the development programs that were running in Mt.Kenya never stalled because of political differences. There were programs that were being commissioned, completed ones. The president inspected the ongoing ones and also launched new ones, meaning the region, just like every part of Kenya, has not been forgotten, ladies and gentlemen. And so I think in that respect, the president achieved a lot in going against the propaganda that had been taking root in that region, that the president had abandoned an area or a region or a people that overwhelmingly voted for him, people who are actually responsible for him being president. The third one, which was very big success in my opinion, is his support base. The expectation was that Ruto's support base was not going to come out, that they were not going to support the president, that there are too few to even matter. The majority of the people of Mt.Kenya were going to ignore the president. If I can quote Rigathi, he had made it clear that the people of Mt.Kenya are so done with Ruto that they neither want to hear his lies, nor are they interested to hear anything. All they want is an opportunity to get rid of him and have another president. And so when the president went there and was received like a king in Laikipia, it was shocking even to me, I must admit. People were like, this is very interesting. We thought that the president was going to be ignored, but now here he was being received. Funny enough, some people decided to come up with narratives, and these narratives were aimed at making it look like the president hired these crowds. In fact, I even saw some media headlines insinuating the same. But ladies and gentlemen, let us be real. There is a crowd you can hire, and then there is a crowd you can't hire. It's very expensive to purchase a crowd of that nature. Then too, if these people hate you the way it was described, and all they want is to see you gone, I don't think you can pay somebody who hates you to come and dance in your rally. I don't think that is possible. That is usually my belief, that if a community does not like you, it is very difficult to go to the same people who want you gone and convince them to dance and cheer you simply because you've paid them. It's very difficult to buy such affection, in my opinion. And so I think in terms of the reception, it was above what I expected. It means that the support the president still has in the region, even though it might not be the majority, because I told you I'm mostly realistic when it comes to politics. You don't go with if you support someone, or if you want to be a good if you want to do justice to politics, you don't go with emotions and lies. I think the region of Mount Kenya, majority of them are still not very comfortable with William Ruto. And I'm always being corrected that I'm lying when I say that they left because of Raila, but the coincidence is too big to ignore. Um, I believe that a majority are not with him yet, still, but quite a good percentage, based on the reception, are going to still stand with the president. Now, why was I saying that this is a big success? Because initially, when we were doing the arithmetics of 2027, the belief was that Ruto might not even get 20% of Mount Kenya. And so mostly we had to work with what he can get from Nyanza, Rift Valley, Coast, and Northeastern and Western. But now that you are seeing that kind of reception in Mount Kenya, especially Mount Kenya East, I'm starting to think that maybe for the first time in a long time, Mount Kenya East might decide to stand with President Ruto in 2027, though that will be very tricky if Kindiki was not to be the running mate. But it looks like they're more eager to be with the president than to oppose him. And if that happens, ladies and gentlemen, President Ruto might be looking at more than 2 million votes from the region, which if he was to top up with whatever it is that he will get from other regions, give him victory. That is what I wanted to share. I said it was going to be a short video. This is my first live anyway. I don't know whether the quality is okay. I'm doing live with the phone. Let me read some of your comments, and then we end it. Peter Keguaro says, my opinion is that it was a success. I share the same, by the way, Peter. I believe that based on the goals that, or other reasons that perhaps people could look at, it was better than we expected. Let us just admit. Charles Kanja, we are the Murima that is still President Ruto. Personally, I'm glad he came because I voted for him and believe he will be the best president that delivers the most compared to all other presidents. Charles Kanja, I don't want to look biased, but to appear biased, but I agree with you 200%. Ayatollah, I am, I mean, that tribal is called Gachagua today, so does. On this, I have a different view. I've been in this country not very long, not longer than some people, but I've been here for quite a while. And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, today that don't ever go the violent route. No matter who is at the receiving end, never support violence. Because it works very well when you are the one meting violence out to people, or in a case where that violence is destroying an opponent. But when the tables turn, because they do, when the tables turn, ladies and gentlemen, things become very thick. I want to give you a personal experience. In 2013, I was supporting Peter Kenneth for president. I think I've done a video and I've told you that that is one of the reasons, if you want to know why the so-called Gen Z bloc is one of the most useless political bloc after the middle class. I did a video. It's how they handled Peter Kenneth. Then 2013, having 200,000 followers on social media, especially Twitter, was not very easy. Trust me, social media was still not that very pronounced the way it is pronounced in the country today. And so the young people, especially the middle class and the young people, came out. In fact, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, without contradiction, that the people who were campaigning for Peter Kenneth, even in Nairobi, the young people who were out campaigning for him then, are the typical people you saw on the street calling themselves Gen Zs. There were these middle class kids and etc. And they told us that they would abandon everything else and vote for Peter Kenneth. Of course, Peter Kenneth got fewer votes than few in Nairobi, which is the most cosmopolitan with the middle class and with those so-called Gen Zs. They didn't vote for Peter Kenneth. When push come to shove, I have told you, and I will repeat this. I don't know whether you will agree, but I will tell you that this is how humans will vote in Kenya. When push come to shove, they will vote tribal. That is not all, but a majority of Kenyans will vote tribal. What is their tribal chieftain telling them to do? So, ladies and gentlemen, I was giving you a story of when I was campaigning for Peter Kenneth in 2013. A very interesting one. So, we go to Naivasha. I was in the presidential campaign team of Peter Kenneth. So, we go to Naivasha. I have never forgotten that. And we meet goons. So, I don't know Naivasha that well, but we really suffered. We were really beaten. The same happened to us in Muranga. Now, nobody should lie to you that people in Mt.Kenya don't throw stones, etc. People throw stones even in France. So there is no this unique community that does not throw stones. When we were in Muranga, we were accused of being, Peter Kenneth was accused of being a Raila Odinga project that is meant to divide the votes of the people of Mount Kenya. That is what they said. That Peter Kenneth was a stooge of Raila Odinga that was there solely to ensure that Uhuru Kenyatta didn't get enough votes. And so we really suffered. We were with Ronnie Osumba, who was the running mate of Peter Kenneth. We really suffered in Muranga. It was really astounding. The same happened to us in Tasia, where ODM youth pretended that they were supporting us. They put on those Tunawes Mate t-shirts, and as we were in that vehicle, they just went down, disembarked, and started stoning us. We were really stoned. So violence, my friends, I would tell you without fear of contradiction, is the worst route when it comes to politics. Don't ever wish it. And that is, I was just responding to Ayatollah, who was saying that the tribalist called Gashagwa today is sawdust. I would not support violence, because when it is on Gashagwa, it might be funny. But then you never know. Tables turn. Remember, in the last election, and I supported President Ruto. I don't know whether that is off-putting for some of you, but this is raw politics, so I tell you what is there, what you need to hear. I supported President Ruto, and there was a time we were in Muranga, Keno, and the police came and tear-gassed us in church. It was the worst moment. And so I think if the same happened, if we condemned it when it happened to us, we should all condemn it when it happens to Rigathi. Whoever organized that, I don't think it was a smart move, in my opinion, considering that it also served a purpose. It made the tour of the president, that was a big success, in my opinion. Now to maybe people are now discussing what happened to Rigathi as opposed to analyzing the president's trip. That is, I was just sampling your views here. I've actually given my take. If you follow politics and history, Kenji Takumi says, if you follow politics and history, it always goes to Washington. I respect your opinion. Thank you, Kenji. This man is campaigning in the middle of his term. Honestly, I'm glad I left Kenya. Kenji, Ben Mugambi, karibu sana. Kenji, I want to urge you to look at politics moderately. And I'm not suggesting that you are not moderate. I'm just saying that, in my opinion, the president of Kenya has to visit areas to inspect and commission projects. You see, unlike where you are, I don't know which part of the world you are in. Maybe you are in the US or Europe or Asia, but wherever you are, I believe that the systems work. I've had the opportunity, I've had the privilege of going out of the country and traveling to some of these developed countries. And I can tell you that the way they perceive presidency in those areas, or let's say the prime minister or leadership, is so different from us. There is one reality that most Africans have not accepted, and I want to share it here. Most African countries are states. They have not reached the level of nationhood. Because when you are a nation, you have a clarion call. You have one vision that is pushing all of you. There is one thing that all of you, however young, however old, you want to achieve for your country. We've not reached that level. We are still what you would call an amalgamation of different tribes fighting over resources. And so a president must make a deliberate effort to make people believe that they are not sidelined. Because remember, the reason as to why our elections are extremely expensive, and Kenya is a very small country, we are not supposed to be spending 40 something billion on election, but because the trust deficit is so low and people are persuaded that presidency is for a community, a good president must make it his priority to visit each and every part of this country so that people feel that you are our president. You see, when the president of Kenya goes to Northeastern and tours those places that are abandoned, I don't know how many of you have gone to Northeastern. Some of these places, ladies and gentlemen, the things that we count as normal things are actual luxury. There are places in Turkana where drinking water, clean drinking water, is like a luxury. And so when the president of the republic visits this area and he talks to these people and he meets them and he tells them, I understand your problem, I will do this. In my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, that is not campaign. I was just saying, Kanji, I don't think the president is campaigning. I am sorry if I come off as defending him, but in my opinion, I don't think the president is campaigning, so to say. Is just doing what is actually required of the president. Just the same way the Constitution says that the president is supposed to uh, address the nation and tell us the state of the nation, where we are as a country every year. I also believe that someone who wants to demystify the presidency and make Kenyans see the value of make Kenyans feel like it is not a matter of life and death has to visit every region. I prefer the president visit this region over and over and over and over so that he sees in real life the situation that some Kenyans are in. Some Kenyans are doing really badly. There is a Weaver Bad. Gachagua paid goons to attack him for what reason? I don't know who said that, but or are you suggesting that he did that? I don't know. I don't know how to respond to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I wanted to share with you. I wanted to tell you that the president's visit or tour of Mount Kenya, in my opinion, was a great success. It also proved that perhaps the noise we get on social media might have not trickled so much into the ground because the reception was just natural. People still liked the president, not a majority, but people still liked him nonetheless, uh, as opposed to what was being painted on social media. If you have a question, you may ask, but if you don't, okay. Weaverbird said something. If you keenly follow the team of Gashagwa, the likes of Nyutu, Metu, Malala, are playing tribal politics, which is gone. They are fighting their own war. I believe come Ruto will be re-elected. Chances of President Ruto getting re-elected are high. One of the advantages he has is that the people who are united to oppose him still don't have a candidate. We are in 2025, ladies and gentlemen. And unless the opposition, the people who are planning to end Ruto's term, come together and come up with a candidate as soon as 2025 so that they could popularize that candidate in 2026, it will be too late. Because if they squabble and fight among them till, let's say, late 2026, Ruto would have actually taken a lot of, Ruto would have done a lot. You know William Ruto, he doesn't it doesn't tire. So he would have covered a lot of bases and made it very difficult for that new candidate, whoever it will be, to be competitive. So chances of President Ruto going back or being re-elected is high. But also there's another thing I wanted to share with you on issues of re-election. And I remember when I did a post in 2016, a very controversial one, and I said that there was no way Raila Odinga would defeat President Uhuru Kenyatta. Some people were like, Mt.Kenya already rejected him. And I can tell you there were some mamas in Mt.Kenya, people were feeling like Uhuru Kenyatta's first term was a complete flop. He had failed. The things he had promised people, he never delivered most of them. And so it was natural to expect that this guy was not going to succeed a lot. I said that what matters in an election, and I would give an example of the United States, for instance, is not who the candidate is or how the candidate has performed. What matters in an election is, do you have a combination that wins? Like in the United States, the example I was giving, if you win those swing states, you are the president. If you lose them, another person is the president. In Kenya, 3 communities, and you may argue with this, but I'll tell you that if you go with facts, ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me. In Kenya, the 3 communities decide who becomes president. The Kikuyus, who have a lot of influence over Meru, Embu, Tharaka, and the diaspora, the people in Laikipia, Nyandarua, and let's say Nakuru. Then you have 2, the Kalenjins, who have significant influence over the Maasai and the Turkanas. And then you have the Luos, who have significant influence over Kisis and Luyas. When 2 of them come together, they will produce a president. In 2002, Luos and Kikuyus were together. They produced Kibaki. In 2007, Kalenjins and Luos were together. You know what happened. There is no way Kibaki won without MPs or without MCS. That is why that election was controversial. So the obvious answer is that the Kalenjin Luo won. That is why Uhuru Kenyatta, realizing this is a fact, went for William Ruto, even though at that particular time, the 2 communities, that is the Kalenjin and the Kikuyus, were not in the best of terms. But Uhuru Kenyatta understood that for me to win election, I must either get Luos to support, to top up with the Kikuyus, or I get Kalenjins. He could not get Luos because Raila Odinga was vying as president. And because Raila Odinga was vying as president, there was no way Raila Odinga was going to be Uhuru's deputy. It was the prime minister, actually was the incumbent. Uhuru and Ruto were competing with an incumbent. Raila was the prime minister. Alonzo Musyoka was the vice president by then, when Kibaki was leaving. So he went for Ruto because he understood that if Kalenjin and Kikuyu came together, they were going to produce president. And that is what worked for him in 2013, and it worked in 2017. That is why I was saying in 2016, which I was saying was controversial, that when Kikuyus and Kalenjin are still together, Uhuru will be re-elected, even if he has delivered or has not delivered. This is real politics. We call it raw politics, not for the sake of it. Raw politics works that way. That is why Trump was elected. If he got the right combination, it doesn't matter whether he's what, according to you, he will be elected. That is why if you go to Holland, the Netherlands, they elected somebody there that people thought would not even win a seat, but he's the prime minister there. So the issue here is, as long as these 2 communities, as long as 2 communities out of the 3 come together, they will produce president. In 2013, the Kalenjin Kikuyu won. In 2017, the Kalenjin Kikuyu won. In 2022, the Kalenjin Kikuyu still won. And that is why in 2027, if the Luos and Kalenjin are together, ladies and gentlemen, Ruto will be re-elected. Add to the fact that there will be a top-up from Murima, a significant one. Sophia, Patricia, there is a hype on X that former CJ David Maraga and Matiangi will be running in 2027. What is your take on that? CJ Maraga, I had talked about Matiangi. Matiangi is not interested in running for president for two reasons. He knows he cannot win. Number two, he doesn't have the charisma to campaign. But CJ Maraga, I think, is doing this for fun. He also is, if he's to vie, he will be vying the way we had Abdu Badida and those type. Or let's say, for best example, Peter Kenneth. You run with a group that believes they want this unique country, but when it comes to voting, they will not vote for Maraga. So a 2027 election, Patricia, I may be wrong, but my belief is that 2027 election might boil down to Kalonzo Musyoka supported by Rigathi Gachagua. Because even Natembeya, I told you, is doing all that he does so that he's called on the table and so that the MCAs, because he leads a county where the MCAs are not his own. In the Trans Nzoia County, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, UDA is the majority. Yes, in that county. So if you have UDA, you add to ODM and you add to Mt.Kenya, they have the numbers to impeach Natembeya. And so Natembeya, being a very clever guy, he did anthropology. He's very smart, by the way, don't underestimate him. What he does, he attracts attention to himself. So that should you remove him for any reason, whether it is because of real incompetence or imagined, people would see that he was politically targeted. And so he wants a situation whereby he has this ground of his own that he would be called to the table and told, okay, fine, finish your second term as governor. We will not, Mt.Kenya will not feel somebody against you. Something like that. That is what I think Natembeya wants. But for Maraga, I'm just telling you, he's doing it the way Abdu Badida and Peter Kenneth did it. This feeling that you are the one who can do something with a few people cheering you here and there. But when push comes to shove, the people cheering him will vote tribal. Kenji says, I know I might sound like I hate US, but I don't like what they have done to Kenya politically. What are you referring to, sir? Weaverbird, I'm a Kisi, and I want you to do analysis of the possibility of Matiangi winning 2027. Kiongozi, I already did that. There's a video on this platform. I don't know whether you had not joined us by then. But I had already analyzed Matiangi's chances of winning, and I said, unfortunately, he always make. And I gave facts there. You can go. I gave my reasons there. You can go and check. From my point of view, Matiangi has no chance. Actually, you agree with me. The Kisii numbers are not enough. Help my fellow Kisii understand. The Kisiis will not vote for Matiangi. You should know that. It's the same thing that happened to one Mudavadi. When he vied in 2013 for the presidency, he lost to Raila Odinga in Vihiga, which is his county. He got some 40-something%, and Raila Odinga got more. So here is the thing. Kisiis are likely to vote for the presidential candidate that the Luos will vote for. Since 2007, Kisiis have voted with the Luos when it comes to the presidency. The beauty with Kisii and considering Weaverbird, considering your clan politics, I come from the border of Bonchari and Kasipul, so I know about Kisii politics and the clan politics. Considering the clan politics, it is very easy in Kisii to get elected on any party, by the way. There was a time the entire Kisii, they voted for Raila for president, but the entire Kisii did not even have a single MP. Yet both the governors were from ODM. So there they will mix based on whatever suits them, I think. If there is no any other question, I think I've handled this from you guys. This was just a trial. Let me know whether you found it useful and your opinion. And if you want us to be doing live sessions at night, we will do those when it is possible, and alongside the daily the analysis, if any. Otherwise, allow me to take this opportunity to thank you so much for taking your time and for always supporting this channel. God bless you.